trash is supposed to be recycled. It's not supposed to be reused again, rehashed, then generally programmed to be reused in another AAA $100 million blockbuster game. But that's besides the point. Trash goes in the trash. Recycle goes in the recycle bin. Not in your video game console. That's right. So we're gonna show Sony, Farm Software, as well as pretty much all of Nintendo, how to properly throw out the trash and how to properly recycle. So here we go. This is the trash bin. Sony, Nintendo, From Software. This, apple juice, Mott's, best apple juice ever, by the way, is the recycle bin. My friends, is how you recycle, showing Sony and Nintendo how it's done out here. Sir. You know, in all my years of playing video games, I've been playing video games not quite as long as some of you have, but I've been playing video games for quite some time, right? And I, for the life of me, cannot understand how people can go ahead and enjoy games that feel like games they already played. Just to name a few. Elden Ring, the game we're going to be talking about in this video, God of War Ragnarok, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. You know, it used to be a main problem that FIFA and Call of Duty used to have, where, you know, people went and bashed those games, particularly because they felt like rehashes of previous games. But Call of Duty is feeling more different these days than big AAA blockbuster games. I don't get it. What's up, people? Strategic 14 checking in. And yeah, man, I just beat God of War Ragnarok, and I have a lot of things to say. A lot of bad things, quite frankly. God of War Ragnarok is an incoherent, boring, and poorly paced story from the original game in 2018. Why do I say that? Because many points in time throughout playing God of War Ragnarok, I felt bored. I felt like the story just went left. We just were doing things that didn't make sense. A lot of the story beats in the game just was like, why the fuck are we doing this? You know, and it ultimately, just to, you know, keep a long story short, made me feel really bored and really sleepy. And I was just constantly thinking, hey, there could be 5,000 other games I could be playing right now, and God of War Ragnarok shouldn't be one of them. Now, in God of War 2018, I wasn't the hugest fan of the story, but I thought the story was good. And the story had a lot to say in so many words. It was a lot more subtle. It was a lot more, you know, the writing was a lot more felt. You know, you can hear the writing and the dialogue being displayed in the game, and you can tell it came from a place of passion. It came from a place of literature. It came from a place of really wanting to give players a proper quality story. But when you go on and you play God of War Ragnarok, you don't get that. At least I didn't get that. I got incoherent. I got boring, and I got poorly paced. Honestly, a lot of it, to me, feels like they put this game together just to please fans and please Sony. I think Sony was really rushing Sony Santa Monica to make a sequel to God of War Ragnarok, God of War 2018, because of all the praise and all the adulation that the original game got. Now, in my mind, do I think God of War 2018 really deserved all this praise and adulation? Just to go back to that game, honestly, not really. If I'm keeping it real, if I'm keeping it honest, it really didn't deserve any of that. But it was still a great game. It was a hell of a lot better than God of War Ragnarok. And because of that praise, that adulation, the cultural phenomenon that God of War Ragnarok, I keep saying fucking God of War Ragnarok, that God of War 2018 was, they were pressured into making a sequel to this game. You can feel the rush. You can feel the fanfare. You can feel the pleasing of fans interwoven into this game's design. And because of that, the game ultimately ends up feeling very recycled, very samey, and boring as a result, and vapid as a result of these factors. You know, back in the day on the PlayStation 2, the olden days of the PlayStation 2, when you got sequels to games, they felt like sequels. Even as far back as the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 era, 7th generation. When you got sequels, you got sequels. You got sequels that were doing things that the original game wouldn't dare to do, couldn't do. Just speaking respectively to the God of War series here. God of War 1, God of War 2, and God of War 3 all took things to the next level as they went along. In God of War, from God of War 1 to God of War 2, things got more high octane, more high stakes, more high risk, more picturesque. When you look at God of War 2 to God of War 3, things were even taken to an even higher level. I mean, as Cliff Blazinski...
Well, when I start talking about the game and I start talking about the bigger, better, and more badass, those who've seen it really get the vision, and they see that the game is large, they see that the controls are improved, they see the overall experience is improved, and they see that it is indeed badass. There's more blood everywhere. There's more...
taking things, making them bigger, better, and more badass. I don't know if you guys... Maybe you guys are not old enough. I don't know if you guys remember that interview. But there's an interview back in the day that Cliff Blazinski did when Gears of War 2 was first initially coming out back in 2008. And he said the words that I feel like every developer should go by these days. Bigger, better, and more badass. That's a motto that everybody needs to go by when they're making a sequel. And that's what God of War was. More epic, bigger, better, and more badass as the sequels went along. God of War 3, even till this day, has some of the most beautiful and grandiose scenery in gaming. From the boss battles to the graphical style, the graphical presentation, to the just going and fighting enemies on top of fucking... What was that one? What was the first boss in fucking God of War 3 again? Poseidon. That Poseidon fight was one hell of an opening. That was in the first 10 fucking minutes. Compare the first 10 minutes of God of War 3 and the first 10 minutes of God of War Ragnarok. Or even the first 10 minutes of God of War 2018. You're watching a cutscene. You do get into the action a lot faster in God of War Ragnarok, but it's a scene where you don't really control Kratos. You're kind of just doing a quick time event, which this game actually kind of has a lot of, by the way. Compared to 2018, there's a lot more quick time events in this game more than anything. So that leads me into my next point. Recycle gameplay and content leading to boredom. Now, there's a certain vapid way that this game plays out. You're going to start to realize it about 10 to 15 hours in. This game is actually very long. You're going to start to realize it about 10 to 15 hours in. You're going to start to realize how much fatigue you're going to get. How much this game is going to start to wear on you as you play through it. And you're going to start to realize that I was playing this game already. I played this already. Your brain is going to catch up. Your brain is going to come in and it's going to realize, hey, dear player, I played this motherfucking game already. It was called God of War 2018 on the PlayStation 4. Or if you guys got it with, got it and played it on your PS5s, on the PS5. I played it on PC, God of War 2018 that is, only a year ago. So, 1 year, fast forward to now, that's honestly something that's not going to be out of my memory that fast, right? So, playing through God of War Ragnarok ultimately ended up feeling like a chore because of this reason. And to go back to God of War 1, God of War 2, and 3, the original trilogy, every single game released in the trilogy was adding new things that couldn't have been done in the original game. If you look at God of War 3's IGN review from back in the day, they actually rated the game lower. I don't remember who reviewed that game back then. I think it might have been Greg Miller or Colin Moriarty. One of those guys. I don't remember who reviewed it back then. But they actually gave that game a lower score because it felt similar enough. Even though it was different, it did feel similar, so similar to God of War 2 with better graphics that they did rate it like a 9.3. I remember this vividly back in 2010. They rated the game a 9.3 because of the if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of design model that the game had. Whereas nowadays, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, that shit gives you fucking 10 out of 10s according to games like Elden Ring and Tears of the fucking Kingdom. It's kind of crazy to see how different, gaming has came. Like how far along it's came. Like, how different it was back then, especially with video game critics. I feel like they were a lot more critical in analyzing the games back then compared to nowadays. So, because of this vapid feeling that I got from playing through God of War Ragnarok for almost 70 plus hours, by the way, I was ultimately bored. I felt on multiple occasions that I wanted to drop the game. Feeling like that is never good when you're playing through a video game. You want to always feel energized and enthusiastic about seeing the next part of the game, about playing the next part of the game, about seeing the story unfold. But I was like, please, can we get this motherfucking game over with? I was sitting there really trying to just rush through this game. I didn't do it in 2018. I did every side mission. I got every achievement. I played that game to my pace. And, yeah, that was not happening in Ragnarok. Hell no. But, man, it's sad because when you look at previous God of War games, with how much new content, with how much new things you got between each game, this game is ultimately a big disappointment in comparison to those. Because in this game, all you really get is one new weapon, Dropner Spear. You really only get one new weapon, and that's it. That's it. That's it. A lot of the skill trees in the moves in the game and the animations and a lot of the skills that you can't acquire throughout the game are ultimately just brought back and rehashed and recycled. That's going to be a word you're going to hear a lot in this review from God of War 2018. A lot of the mechanics in the gameplay, a lot of the nuances are just brought right the fuck back. And that's okay. That's fine. But if there's ultimately about only maybe 20% of things that feel changed over the original, and there's not enough here to justify this. I mean, ultimately, yes, there is a new story. It's not very good, but there is a new story. There's new areas in the realms to explore. But if you're playing the game and the game doesn't feel new, what's the point of any of that? What's the point of any of this new stuff now if the gameplay in the game you're playing feels almost exactly the fucking same? Very little introduced between the sequel and the original game. How engaged is that going to keep you? How engaged are you going to stay for the runtime of the game? For me, not very fucking long. You know? So the game ultimately ends up feeling like God of War Ragnarok .5. That's the game that that's the name, the title that I actually coined for this game. God of War Ragnarok .5. That's what it ends up feeling like. Because where's the new here? Where's the thing for me to spend my $70 and buy a PlayStation 5 to play this game in its best current quality until of course it releases on that motherfucking god tier Master Race PC? Where is my $70 going to? My extra $10. Why is Sony in need of my extra $10 fucking dollars when all I'm getting is one new weapon, somewhat slightly better graphics, and kind of the same motherfucking skill tree with maybe like some new moves here and there, some new moves here and there in the gameplay? What am I getting here for my extra $10? What is my extra $10 giving me, Sony? 60 frames per second? That's why I'm paying an extra $10. Curious. It's real fucking curious when you think about it. They even recycled the Odin's Raven side mission. They even recycled that. Not to mention the tons of recycled animations that just were borrowed exactly from God of War 2018. But that's besides the point. This is the greatest game of all time. It's 10 out of 10. It's the best game of 2022. When we're doing the same side mission, the exact same side mission that we did in the first game. We literally recycled Odin's Ravens. The Ravens don't look any different, by the way. They're still just these green spectral ravens. The only difference now is that, which I kind of did like, the only difference now is they actually reward you for going after the ravens. So in the first game when you went after the ravens, you didn't really get anything. But in the second game, there is a part, I think it's like Niflheim. If you go to Niflheim, there's these chests you can open, and they actually do give you stuff for going after the Odin Ravens now. But it's still the same exact thing as what we did in 2018, which just makes it like, what is the point of doing this? Well, again, there is a point in doing it. There is a point in doing it, but still, it's the same mission that we got already. So a lot of players are gonna be like, damn, I'm doing the same exact thing. A lot of players probably didn't even go to Niflheim. They might have went there for a little bit, saw it, oh, they can get the little chests and stuff, and they were like, oh shit, well, it's the same thing as I was doing in 2018. I don't want to do this bullshit again. Then just left it alone. And that's ultimately what I did. I was like, I'm not doing this again. This is the same bullshit I was doing in the first game. Why am I doing this bullshit again? And that made me have the irresistible urge to just rush through this game's story. I was doing a lot of the side missions and the side content and the side quests up until a certain point. Up until I realized that they really ain't much here. there's really not much here for me to be excited about. And because of that, I ended up rushing straight through the story. And a lot of the side missions, which might have been great, might have been better, might have enhanced my experience with the game, I ultimately just left alone because I was tired. I was really fatigued by playing the game up until this point. It was just too much. And it wasn't a good too much, it was a fucking bad too much. It was a overdone too much. It was a fucking, like, when you at a family dinner and your family's serving you fucking soul food and there's a whole fucking goddamn table full of fucking soul food and Big Mama is just trying to feed you way too much goddamn collard greens and fried chicken. She's trying to give you all this goddamn food and like, Big Mama, it's just too much. You're just trying to feed me all this motherfucking food and I can't store it anymore. Big Mama, I can't eat no more. You just can't eat no more. You're full. You can't do it no more. And that's what fucking God of Ragnarok. It just makes you full, but it's not a good full. It's not a full where you want to go right to sleep. You get the itis. It's a full where you feel bloated, you feel like your stomach is about to burst, you feel like your head is about to explode. That is what God of Ragnarok does to you. It's just too much. It's the motherfucking goddamn McDonald's supersize me of fucking gaming. This is a literal definition of fast food fucking gaming. It's the literal definition. I think us as gamers have to do better. As a community, we have to do better. We have to start looking at games a lot more critically these days. We have to start looking at what we're buying a lot more critically. We have to. Safe sequels have no place in my world. Okay? And this is not so much about graphics. This review / rant might end up coming off as like a graphics rant, but it's not a graphics rant. It's a gameplay thing. There's nothing wrong with a sequel coming out and it has similar graphics to the original, but there has to be gameplay innovations that the original wasn't doing in order to keep me excited to play through the game. One of the games that I kind of have to cite here is Judgment and Lost Judgment. Lost Judgment, you could see a graphical upgrade there. In Lost Judgment, there's so much new content, significant new things added to the gameplay, not just content-wise, but gameplay-wise. You have 2 new fighting styles, okay? As well as, which, again, drastically feel different from what you had in the first game. As well as, in addition, new moves added to the fighting styles that you already currently had, like the Tiger and Crane style. So, ultimately, the game ends up feeling a lot more different, a lot fresher than when you initially played the first game. God of Ragnarok doesn't really have those things. A lot of the animations remain, again, like I said previously, largely the same. A lot of the moves remain largely the same. You only get one new weapon. You get a lot of the runic attacks remain largely the same. And to me, that is a problem. This is a trend I've been seeing a lot with some of the more popular games. They did this with Tears of the Kingdom as well. Just gave us a recycled game that we played 5 years ago. They also did this with Elden Ring. That's one of the reasons why I didn't like Elden Ring, because Elden Ring felt way too vapid. It felt way too vapid in comparison to Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne. And especially when Bloodborne and Sekiro came out, those games felt like new experiences. Those felt like games that you hadn't played before within the Souls formula. In Elden Ring, they literally copy and pasted everything. I mean, the combat system, the movement, the animation, the sound effects, some of the way how the monsters move, the fucking what was the even the sometimes music even sounds the same with Dark Souls 3. I mean, goddamn, nigga, what the fuck? I mean, haven't these motherfuckers heard a change? Shit. So, because of this vapid feeling that I got from playing through God of War Ragnarok for almost 70 plus hours, by the way, I was ultimately bored. I felt on multiple occasions that I wanted to drop the game. Feeling like that is never good when you're playing through a video game. You want to always feel energized and enthusiastic about seeing the next part of the game, about playing the next part of the game, you know, about seeing the story unfold. But I was like, please, can we get this motherfucking game over with? I was sitting there really trying to just rush through this game, which I didn't do in 2018. I did every side mission. I got every achievement. I played that game to my pace. And, yeah, that was not happening in Ragnarok. Hell no. But, man, it's sad because when you look at previous God of War games, with how much new content, with how much new things you got between each game, this game is ultimately a big disappointment in comparison to those. Because in this game, all you really get is one new weapon, Dropner Spear. You really only get one new weapon, and that's it. That's it. That's it. But even going back to graphics and talking about God of War Ragnarok, the graphics are a slight improvement over the original. They are cleaner and more detailed. But if you play the PC version of God of War 2018, it's really not going to be that impressive. And unfortunately, I played God of War 2018 on PC. So I'm not that impressed with this game on the PlayStation 5. And ultimately, it all feels like you're really just buying this game just for 60 frames per second and higher on the PlayStation 5. But I feel like it's such a waste and it's wasted potential to release a sequel like this and not even try to make something from the ground up. You know, something that couldn't be done on 2018 on the PlayStation. Something that couldn't be realized on that game. But yet, they don't do that. They play it extremely safe. Super safe. Goddamn double condom on the penis safe. Pussy condom safe. That's how safe these motherfuckers play God of War Ragnarok. Quite frankly, it is atrocious. It was really difficult to play through this fucking game because of that shit. So, what do you do? What do you do when faced with playing this kind of game? Well, for the strategist, obviously the strategist is a trooper. He's a soldier. He's going to go through and play through the game all the way to the end. And skip everything. Because, hey, I could do it. But what made it even harder, again, going back to my first point, is the poorly paced story. In the walking sections, the Atreus sections, oh my fucking god, the Atreus sections. The Atreus sections, I dreaded having to switch over to play as Atreus. Towards the end of the game, they switch him back to you. You switch back to Atreus again. I was like, oh my god, I gotta play as Atreus again. Horrible. But the numerous amounts of motherfucking walking session. This plays a ton of modern video games. But goddamn, the walking sections, especially with Atreus, which seemed like for some reason he had more walking sections. There's a scene, there's a part where he goes into this other realm. I don't know where he is, but he visits Agrabota, which she's like a giant, right? He visits Agrabota and stuff, and Agrabota is telling him about the whole prophecy shit and what's going to happen with Ragnarok, right? When it happens. And literally, it's like 2 hours, like probably like 3 hours, my nigga, of fucking walking. Just walking. You're not only just walking with Agrabota, you're riding on a fucking bull and stuff, and it's like you're just fucking watching the game for like 3 hours. And I'm like, you nigga, this is a God of War game. We're supposed to be out here smashing stuff up, killing stuff. enjoying a great story while we do that. But not only was I bored, but they had me fucking walking and bored listening to boring ass dialogue. Oh hell no! But of course they don't let you skip cutscenes, so you couldn't skip it. Couldn't even skip the section. They couldn't be nice enough to just say, "Hey, let's add a skip feature here," because we know a lot of people. It's bullshit. We know a lot of people not gonna want to play through this. But of course, we're gonna make you motherfuckers suffer and play through that walking bullshit. And man, it really brings down the quality of this game and its experience. But I will be remiss in not addressing some of the cool things about this game. There's one move that I love about the game on this game. There's one thing that I love about this game, and that's Kratos' little thing where he can like spin his blades of chaos. I don't know what they call it in the game, but he could spin his blades of chaos and he could like turn them on fire. That move is fun as fuck to do, and when you upgrade it, you can get your blades to I guess they think they call it like emulation or something, and you can turn it on fire, and then when you use it, it really is fucking OP when you upgrade it in the skill tree. And you can also use it to juggle enemies in the air as well. It's really cool. I really like that move. The boss fights on this game. Listen, let me tell you guys something, man. One thing that God of War is known for. You played through the trilogy. Before. One thing that God of War is known for is fantastic boss fights. Go back and play God of War 1 through 3. You will see what the fuck I mean. God of War 3 still has some of the best boss fights I have ever played in a video game, and that's not cap. That shit is straight fucking truth. And just on a larger scale, God of War Ragnarok definitely emulates what its predecessor games, its grandfather games, its father games were doing before it. You know what I'm saying? Its bigger brother games were doing before it. And it emulates it very well. I playing through the boss fights in this game, I felt my adrenaline pumping, I felt my blood pumping. I was all up in those boss fights. Those boss fights were great. Especially the highlights being the Heimdall fight and the Thor fight, the second Thor fight. Pretty much all the boss fights in the game are great. Almost all. I don't think there's one boss fight in God of War Ragnarok that I did not like playing through. The boss fights were great. They challenge you. They're high octane. They're fun. They're bombastic. They're high stakes. Not necessarily as large scale and insane and epic as God of War 3's boss fights or God of War 2's boss fights for that matter. But still pretty fucking solid boss fights. Boss fights were honestly probably my favorite part of the game was the boss fights. And it's sad that the game had to just have a mediocre, shitty story. But the boss fights were great. It was like, what the fuck? It's like, nigga, you don't give a fuck about the boss. You don't give a fuck about what you're doing, but the boss is a fun fight. It's kind of fucked up in that way, And, there's some touching scenes there. There's some scenes that really do stand out. I don't want to spoil it, but of course, if you know God of War 2018, they do tug on your heartstrings. There's some times I felt like my heartstrings being tugged, They do have some really quality scenes. The voice acting is great. Christopher Judge and I think Sonny Soldier, polished Polish names, not good with them. But Sonny Soljic and Christopher Judge both do a pretty fucking phenomenal job in their acting. They do great in this game. But it's just sad that they had such a shitty and poor. A lot of times it's just a really bad, poorly written script to work with. It's just the truth, Well, it's an opinion, honestly. But yeah, they just had some really, in my opinion, some really bad material to work with. And it's sad. Ultimately, to conclude this here review video, it's not going to be the most popular. I'm not going to get fans with this video, and I don't. Frankly, I'm sorry to say this, I don't give a fuck. Okay, this is my thoughts and opinions. This is what I felt. This is what I seen. This is what I thought logically as I ran through the game. That's just how it is for me. You know what I'm saying, son? But there's some ways that this game did improve over 2018, like the boss fights. Graphically, it was a little bit better. That fucking spinning fucking blade thing that Kratos does with the fire, that shit is fucking cool. But ultimately, it just ends up being a letdown because it's recycled, it's samey, it's vapid, it's safe as fuck, and it just doesn't really do much to enhance the 2018 original. You know, it doesn't really do a lot. It doesn't do a lot to keep you excited. You know, I think that's the main word I'm preface here is excitement. Looking forward to something. What is there to look forward to in this game? There's really not much. Just if this game feels about 20% now, 80% old, and that shit is unacceptable in 2023. Well, it came out in 2022, but you know what I mean. I played it in 2022. Now, a lot of people are probably playing this game in 2022. Probably just getting PS5. Play it on PS4. I want to experience it in its best possible iteration. So, with that being said, here's another quality motherfucking banger from your boy Strategist 418, man. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was a little bit more higher quality than I'm used to doing. I pat myself on the back because, hey, you know, I take pride in my work here on YouTube, and I, you know, also watch people who take pride in their work. I mean, I might not have the most high tier, stellar production values. My quality might not be the best, but I sure as hell have something to say. A lot of good stuff to say. That's the only time I really feel like making videos. Something interesting to say. So, you guys already know, Strategist 418. I'm out. I love you. Hope you love me. Peace.
If you just played your part, none of this would have happened. What was it all for?